our wonderful man in uniform says something.
We're going to vote. Super excited.
3, 2, 1.
Okay.
That was actually terrible.
Rick Neal, candidate for governor.
Thank you.
A hog that the party bought at the Athens County Fair. I don't know if I'm going to eat any because I made eye contact with that hog, but it's okay. So it's local. We have macaroni and cheese and baked beans. Little snafu with the baked beans in that they're not vegetarian. They have a little meat in them. If you're vegan or vegetarian, you'll have the macaroni and cheese, the pork sandwich, and not pork sandwich. No, you'll have a lentil barbecue sandwich that was made by Roxanne Groff.
And on the back of your agenda, you'll see all the folks that have sponsored, the dinner sponsors tonight. Engineer Jeff Maiden, Sheriff Rodney Smith, Commissioner Lenny Eliason, leaders here locally that care so much about their members and work so hard for the community, and we feel really blessed for that. We also have the greatest activists, I think, in the state of Ohio, right here in Athens County and in this room. And we have the best partnership, I am certain, with our college Democrats of any county in the state of Ohio or perhaps the nation. But I'm going to be joined by Bailey Williams, who's right there serving food right now, who's the president of the College Dems. And we genuinely are doing a precinct captain model, neighbor-to-neighbor organizing that is working. And those that are not involved yet, you soon will be.
My name is Landon Lama. I work for the Ohio Democratic Party, the field organizer for Ohio University, the city, and a lot of other little townships. Not little, of course. A lot of voters there, energized voters. But I'm here tonight to talk about our campaign. A lot of you have probably seen the slate cards we have going around with all the candidates on them. Everyone loves it because it lists the Supreme Court judges, which is a big point.
There we go. A woman who has 30 years of legal experience. She has 11 years of experience on the 8th District Court of Appeals and is known for being tough and fair. She is also a woman endorsed by the National Association for Social Work. It is my greatest pleasure to introduce Melody Stewart.
Thank you, everyone. To the chairman of the party and all the officers and all my fellow elected officials, which actually seem like it's half of you out there, to the College Dems, to Organized Labor, President Berga here, and all the guests, thank you so much for coming out. I've told some of you, I've been telling my campaign manager in the back, in the corner, Ernie Davis, I said, when are we going to Athens? 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 He says, soon, it's coming soon. So it's appropriate on the first day of early vote that I'm in Athens. But I have to tell you that it was when I walked in this door, it was the first time someone has said, I voted for you today. So I have 15 votes so far. I think I only need about 1.985 million, something like that. And I know you have a lot to do, so as the late actress Elizabeth Taylor is alleged to have said to her 5th husband, I won't keep you long. I am Judge Melody Stewart, and I'm running for the Ohio Supreme Court. I've been on the court actually almost 12 years, and I was just re-elected in 2016 for the second time, unopposed. I can retire from my job in 4 years at the Court of Appeals. So why, on God's green earth, would I get up every morning behind schedule, put 1,200 to 1,500 miles a week on the car, have 2 full-time jobs, campaigning and my job at the Court of Appeals, crisscross the state, wonder if you took a picture in this dress already, go back and forth to the dry cleaner to run for the Ohio Supreme Court. I tell you, it is not about me, but I'm running for several reasons. One, I think as probably everybody in this room knows, the Ohio Supreme Court is comprised of justices who all belong to the same political party. It is not this party. And it's been that way for over 35 years. They've had a stranglehold on the Supreme Court. The public can have no confidence in a one-party highest level of our judiciary. And really, I don't care what the party is, Republican, Democrat, Libertarian, Green. We are a very diverse state. We are suburban, we're urban, we're suburban or rural. That's a word. We are blue collar, we're white collar, we're no collar. We're technology, we're manufacturing, we're industry, we're agriculture. And so there needs to be representation at that level. And let me tell you why. You have a right to appeal any decision of the trial court in this county. Speeding ticket, you think the trial court got it wrong? You can appeal it to the 4th District Court of Appeals. Termination of parental rights, personal injury case, planning and zoning decision, property settlement from a divorce, a wills and trust. You have a right to appeal to the 4th District Court of Appeals. You don't have that right at the Ohio Supreme Court level. The Supreme Court only takes cases, with rare exception like death penalty, it only takes cases that it feels is of great importance to the state. Now, I posit to you, if you have a one-party court, how are they to discern what's of great importance to labor and to people who are in the middle class and to the working class? And so that is why it is important. We're trying to restore some balance. Now, you say if you get there, you'll be 1. It'll be 6-1. The difference is, for you Hamilton buffs, I'll be in the room where it happens. And so when they vote on a case of whether or not to hear it and decide not to, I might then be able to say, I think this scenario or this issue is of great importance to a large sector of Ohio, and we should hear it. They might then say, you know, we didn't think about it that way. And if they don't, I have the power of the pen in a dissenting opinion, which gets published and put out there forever, and that can also lead to changes in the law. I'll tell you a brief background about myself. I've spoken to some of you already. I'm a native Ohioan, born and raised, lived most of my life in Cuyahoga County. I did live in Lucas and Toledo for a while, and in Hamilton and Cincinnati. I got my undergraduate degree at the College Conservatory of Music at the University of Cincinnati. Because with a name like Melody, what else would I study? Right? So I'm a classically trained pianist, but I got my degree in theory and composition. I promptly took that degree and got a job in the healthcare industry, where I managed a small healthcare management company. Intellectually bored, I applied to law school. Now, my older sister is a lawyer, or at least she has a law degree. And she was in law school. There's quite a bit difference in age. She was in law school when I was in high school. And I called her and said, I'm thinking about applying to law school. And she was quiet, and she said, I wouldn't do it if I were you. So I applied the next day. And went to law school at Cleveland Marshall College of Law. And as you've heard in the introduction, I've had a 30-year career in law. I first did civil defense litigation for the city of Cleveland when George Voinovich was mayor of the city of Cleveland. This is where you're supposed to say, I don't look old enough to have been there then. I don't, right? So I did that. Then I went into academia. So I was a law professor and assistant dean at Cleveland Marshall College of Law, a law professor at the University of Toledo, and director of student services at Case Western Reserve's Law School. I've been privileged to work for 3 of 9 Ohio law schools. I then went to the Court of Appeals. So I have practiced law, I have taught law, I'm published in the law. And somewhere in that time, I found time to go back and got a social science PhD from Case Western Reserve University, Mandel School of Applied Social Sciences. And why that's important is because it helps me to ask the right questions when I'm on the bench and when I'm studying cases to come up with the right answers. It also helps me to look at some unintended consequences of some legislation that comes out, and even some judicial decisions. That's one of the reasons why I'm running for balance and to bring those credentials to the court. Second reason I'm running, and a lot more personal to me, I'm an excellent public servant, and I take a great deal of pride in being a good public servant. My building, the old courthouse in Lakeside, Ontario in Cleveland, is in front of the Brown Stadium that used to be known as the House of Sorrows until a few weeks ago. And it's a beautiful, historic courthouse. When I walk in that building, if there's paper on the floor, I pick it up. Because the lawyers who practice in that building and the people who come in for whatever their needs are shouldn't have to come into a crappy-looking public building. If you call our court and our receptionist is not at the desk and I'm there, I answer the phone. Because the phone shouldn't have to ring and ring and ring. And so that's what I mean by being a good public servant. And I participate on various things outside of the court. So I am the chair for the state of Ohio for the Capital Case Attorney Fee Council. It's 5 Court of Appeals judges, I call them 4 guys and me, from across the state, and we are responsible for setting the rate of compensation for lawyers who represent defendants who are being tried with a death penalty specification. If the state of Ohio is going to be in the business of putting people to death for some of the most heinous of crimes, then the lawyers need to be adequately compensated so there's a good defense. I'm also on the board of the Judicial College of the Ohio Supreme Court. That board is responsible for educating the judges and the court personnel across the state of Ohio. And I spent a couple of years on the Criminal Justice Recodification Committee. All of those were appointments because I feel that serving your community and serving to make the judiciary better extends to outside of wearing the robe. And the final reason that I'm running is I hope to bring some reforms to our court. A lot of people don't need motivation to do their jobs well, but in a lot of counties, it's taking too long for cases to wind through the system. It shouldn't take a year for a judge to rule on a motion. Parties need to have dispositive motions ruled on before the day of trial because the clients have spent so much money preparing for trial. A lawyer shouldn't have to file a writ of mandamus to get a lower court to act. And so I hope to bring some reforms there. I'm privileged to be endorsed by lots of groups, organized labor, Ohio AFL-CIO, educational organizations, the social workers. I was very pleased to, the day before yesterday, get endorsed by the Columbus Dispatch. I'm hoping all those other newspapers fall right in line. The biggest endorsement, obviously, will be yours and your vote. People are liking what we're saying across the state. My opponent is a former colleague of mine who used to be on the 7th District Court of Appeals in Youngstown, who got appointed earlier in the year when Bill O'Neill resigned to run for governor. Thanks, Bill, made my life harder. The governor appointed my opponent earlier in the year, so she has been sitting in the seat for about 8 or 9 months now. She is competent and she's qualified, but she does not make the court better. And we need to be about making better government at all levels. We were all recently evaluated by the Ohio State Bar Association. They only evaluate Supreme Court candidates. The highest possible score you could get is a 30. If you got 24 to 30, you were highly recommended. People in the state of Ohio are very privileged to have all 4 candidates highly recommended. So everybody got over 24. But one candidate got 29 out of a possible 30 points, and she's standing in front of you. I still can't figure out where I lost that last point. That's an honor, too. I'm going to end with an analogy I often give since it's football season. So let's say you had 1 pick in the NFL draft, just 1, and you had a team full of right tackles, but you were short at the wide receiver position. You needed a strong safety. Well, your middle linebacking core wasn't all that great either, and you'd need a dynamic running back. Would you draft yet another right tackle? That's what will happen if my opponent is maintained. She will be a right tackle on a team of right tackles. They might be all good right tackles, but you won't win anything. Can you see a right tackle trying to run a ball or catch a ball? So if you need any of those skilled positions, then I'm your wide receiver. I'm your strong safety. I'm your middle linebacker. I make the court better. I'm Judge Melody Stewart. Don't forget to vote for the judge with the musical name. You know, they changed the rules for judges and judicial candidates this year. It used to be we couldn't talk about money at all. And it's still uncomfortable for me, but if there are 20 or more people in the room, and I did a quick head count, very quick, You can say if you feel inclined to donate to the campaign, you can also go online and donate. My opponent is probably outraising me 4 or 5 to 1. You'll probably see her commercials coming on this week. Hopefully the dark money won't come out against me, but if it does, that means she's getting nervous. I am ahead in the polls. I appreciate all of you who have voted for me. Write your own message and send to people you know across the state. I'm thinking this might be my year because I'm a pianist, right? And the piano has how many keys? 8. And how many counties in Ohio? 8. And do you know when the last Democratic woman was elected to the Supreme Court? 88. And guess when I graduated from law school? 88. I'm thinking this is my year. Thank you.
Next, I would like to introduce Rick Neal, who has had a career in global humanitarian work, always helping people who need it the most. He has helped and worked in Cambodia, the Congo, Afghanistan, and Liberia, and has also been a member of the Peace Corps. Now that he's taking on new threats, this time the threats Ohioans face from out-of-touch Republicans. Please welcome Rick Neal.
Hey everybody, thank you, President Berga. Thank you, Riley. Thank you, everyone. It's great to be back. I love coming to Athens, and I'm just really pleased to be back here again a year after being here for the first time. Judge Stewart, thank you. Chairman, thank you. All elected officials with officers with the party, thank you all very much for having me back here. It's an honor. It's also an honor to be running to represent folks here in Athens County. I bring that up first because I'm afraid I can't say the same for my opponent. Representative Stivers, who has been our representative since 2010, had a moment of candor last January. Thanks to my campaign, you might have seen a video clip about this recently. He was doing a forum at the Columbus Metropolitan Club where he got a question about gerrymandering. He had been a little flip, I guess, as is his wont. A few weeks prior with USA Today, you got to understand a little context here. Representative Stivers is not really full-time our representative anymore, right? After Donald Trump got elected, Steve felt that he really didn't need to come home here. He needed to go towards the swamp instead of away from it. So he went and he got himself elected as the chair of the National Republican Congressional Committee. That fairly harmless-sounding name masks the truth, which is that he is the top fundraiser for the Republicans in Congress, and it's his job to maintain and expand the Republican majority in Congress, in the House of Representatives. I really don't think that's where we need to be going as a country, but he made that choice to go into Republican leadership, and so he gets this question from USA Today who says, Chairman, how are you going to maintain your majority in Congress given all the energy on the Democratic side and historic disapproval ratings for the president, mistrust of your party? And he says, well, we drew the lines. So that's how we're going to do it. There's moment of candor number one, just saying, gerrymandering is going to work for us. That I can't even say it with a straight face. That's why we're going to maintain our majority, because we drew the line. So unfairly using their power to keep themselves in power. So an intrepid citizen at this forum a few weeks later asked the questions. I asked him about gerrymandering. What are you going to do to fix gerrymandering? And he goes off on some remarks, and he says, gerrymandering didn't work so well for me. They drew the districts, like it was somebody else, right? They drew the districts and I got what was left. I got Athens, and believe me, I didn't want Athens. But you know what, Steve? Athens didn't want you either. I mean, honestly. Here's a sitting U.S. Congressman. It's disgraceful. Who says that? That's why I wanted to start out to say how proud I am as a first-time candidate, as a citizen, to be running to represent everyone in the 15th district, starting right here in Athens County. And I thank you very much. What I've learned in this last year and a half, that I've been going around this district and trying to become the best candidate that I can and get myself ready to be your representative. I've learned how much we've been left behind by our representative in Congress. How much we've been left behind on health care. How much we've been left behind on retirement security. How much we've been left behind by someone who won't defend our democracy. All these things are things that I want to work with. Riley mentioned I'm a public health guy. I was a Peace Corps volunteer for a few years in North Africa and turned that into a career in public health, working overseas, doing water and sanitation programs for refugees in Asia and Africa. It was a great job. I loved it. I got to work with a lot of great people, to help a lot of people. And humanitarian work, the great thing about it is it's very practical and it's very collaborative. And those are two things that make me qualified for this job. Practical collaboration. I was out there in Congo or in Cambodia or in Afghanistan or in Burundi in Central Africa. Women and children would show up in town overnight, needing help. And the next morning we'd wake up, we'd say, what are we going to do? How are we going to help these people? And everybody would get together. I did water and sanitation. Someone else was doing medical care. Someone else was doing food. Someone else was doing shelter. We'd get together. We'd figure it out. Meet our humanitarian mission. Save lives. Get people back on their feet. Get them ready to go home. Not once in my career did I ever have a moment where somebody said to me, well, I'm not going to work with you because I don't like you. Or I don't like the organization that you're a part of. Or I don't like your, you name it, your ethnic group or your religion or your culture or whatever. No one ever said that. We had work to do. Never, ever, ever did we let anything get in our way of that. And that's the spirit that I want to bring to Congress. I'll go and I'll talk to anyone. I'll sit down with anyone if I think that it's going to help people here. Fix health care. We're going to work on that. Going with what Sherrod Brown has proposed and expanding Medicare so that folks 55 and up can buy into it. And folks in that hard to insure group can get shifted into the Medicare program if they want to, right? Stop the attacks on the Affordable Care Act. Stand up. You know, a sitting U.S. congressman has a lot of power to use his pulpit to get up there and say, hey, attacks on pre-existing condition coverage, off the table. Not going to happen. That court case that's going on in Texas right now, they're taking the Affordable Care Act to court, and if that court succeeds, no more coverage for pre-existing conditions. You better believe that I'll stand up and go down to the court and say, I don't think so. Too important to be playing around with our health care like that. And Governor Kasich's Medicaid expansion. It's something that we need to keep here in Ohio. The state legislature doesn't seem to agree. Hopefully in a few months we'll have new majorities in there that will agree. And we're going to do what we need to because that's the other part that really gets me going about public health in this state, and that's the opioid crisis. I'm a public health guy. I can't wait to get in there and work on making sure that law enforcement has what it's needs to keep the drugs from coming into our communities. Make sure that folks who are addicted and their families have the wraparound services that they need. Medication-assisted treatment in residential treatment centers. That's what's going to help people. And finally, doing something about our political system. My opponent gets 85% of his campaign funds from corporate PACs, corporate lobbyists. I get zero. That was the commitment that I made at the beginning of this campaign, and I was one of the first congressional candidates, thank you, in this country to do it, and now there's a ton of us. I was very proud to get endorsed by End Citizens United, and it's one of the first things that all of us is going to do when we get into Congress on January 3rd, is introduce legislation to say no more corporate PAC money in our elections, because it's distorting our democracy, it's corrupting our democracy, and it is keeping Congress from doing common sense things that we need to do. So, proud to be running to work on those issues, proud to be running to represent everyone in this district. And today we got to start, didn't we? Today, all this time, we've been waiting. Other places had their special elections, right? We had that great one up in the 12th for Danny O'Connor in August, but now this is our time. Now finally today we get to start voting. We get to start taking the steps towards better health care, and towards a secure retirement, and towards fixing our political system. Finally we get to take those steps to vote, to stand up for ourselves and stand up for each other. Because that's what Democrats are about. Stand up for ourselves, stand up for each other, stand up for our communities, stand up for our country. That's what all this activism has been about. It's been about patriotism. We love our country, and we want to see it do better. I think we're all proud to be working hard. All of us officials are proud to be serving. So yeah, I'm Rick Neal. I'm running for Congress in the 15th District, and I couldn't be prouder. Thank you very, very much.
My name is Bailey Williams. I'm the president of the College Democrats at OU. I just wanted to thank everybody from the Athens Democratic Party. You guys make a lot of things possible for us. This past voter registration cycle, we were able to register over 2,000 students here on campus. And that was better than several colleges around the state. It was better than Toledo, even with their bigger population. The only schools that were able to beat us were Cincinnati and Columbus, but in Franklin County, they're going to get all those resources pumped into there, and then Cincinnati's really hyped up about AFTAB, so it's understandable. But
no, wait till next year.
Wait till next year. You guys make our jobs a lot easier, and I really think that our partnership is one of the best in the state. Thank you, everybody. a year ago. I've introduced him, this very same building this past spring. But I've truly never met somebody who works as hard as this person, working 3 jobs and campaigning for another one. His work ethic is remarkable, and you better believe that he's going to take that same work ethic to the State House when he wins this November to represent the 94th District. So I just want to introduce Taylor Savington.
Most of you folks probably know me at this point. I'm running for state representative. I rushed late from Belpre, knocking doors in the rain. I was able to get my pants and shoes changed, but I'm still like hat hair and wet socks. It's been a day. Let me take one step back. There is no blue wave. I don't believe in a blue wave. There's no magical pot of votes that we can just come up with and win this election this year. But what I have seen is an extraordinary, exceptional amount of energy, fundraising. Look at Rick Neal's fundraising. Holy cow. Rick in the District 15 has raised a ton of money. Look at Democrats across the state. There has been exceptional volunteering. I was in the Democratic office on State Street last week. It was buzzing on like a Thursday. There have been millions of postcards across this country. No doubt hundreds of thousands in Ohio. Phone banking. It's incredible. The activism has been incredible. And so for anybody in this room, there's plenty who have run for office, several office holders, or if you've campaigned for somebody, everyone knows that at some point in September and October, and I now know, that there are days where you're just like, what did I do? What did I sign up for? It's negative. There's so much to do. You don't have the time. You miss your family for 3 months. My poor boyfriend is suffering the worst of this right now. He's like, where's Taylor? Somebody please find him on Facebook. So I guess what I'm trying to get at is that I see these folks. I see people in this room who are working so hard, who are knocking doors. Jordan in the back, and Alex, who is still knocking doors in Belpre. We knocked doors today in pouring rain. Yesterday I had to deliver stamps to somebody who was writing postcards for me. I said, how many stamps do you need? She said 580 stamps. I said 500. I came with a roll of 100. I thought I was going to cut half of it for her. I had to go back and buy stamps at the post office and bring it to her. She's just one. Many in this room have helped me write postcards. I delivered 3,500 yesterday to the post office. I still have 5,000 more. I mean, it's incredible. So there is no blue wave, but there is extreme energy in this room. Extreme energy outside of this room. And it's making a difference. Richard Cordray, a new poll today, up by 3. Sherrod Brown, new poll today, up by double digits, 12 or 13. I haven't seen your numbers yet, but you said you were winning in your speech, right? Your polls? So I've just been so impressed, so proud to be running for this area, so proud to be running for Meigs, Vinton, Washington, Athens counties. I'm so proud of the party in many ways for stepping in, not just the local party, but the state and national. Sherrod Brown endorsed my campaign yesterday. Barack Obama endorsed my campaign in August. We are building the blue wave. We are the blue wave. We're just people. We're working. We're convincing our neighbors to vote. Actually, if I can tell this story, it's a little weird, but today at the doors, Jordan as my witness, somebody said, listen, I'm voting for you, buddy, because she liked what I had to say. And then she said, but we're going to work on Trump's re-election in 2 years. And I was like, we'll just put that off. We're going to talk about 2018 right now. So there's still so much work to do, but people believe in what we're doing. You guys make me believe these days where I've been like, holy cow, what did I sign up for? Andrea Reich's one of them. I talk about Andrea almost daily. She doesn't know it, but she's a motivator for our team. I'm just super proud to be on this ticket. Thank you for putting up with me with just a clean pair of pants. And let's win in 3 weeks.
The lower levels of government that you go down, the more change, the more you're able to do. So I think local elections are very, very important. And in Athens County, there's only one county office that's held by a Republican, correct? It's only one. But who said it was time to change? Anyway, I know the guy who's going to change it, and I can't wait to see what he does when he gets in office. I really believe in his campaign. He's served Athens County for 30 plus years, right? 30 plus years. So I'll let him speak more about that. Without further ado, Dave Owens.
Football references. Are you a Browns fan? Oh, come on. I was going to show you a lot of love if you were a Browns fan. Okay, thank you. So that tells you how I've been punished my whole life. I blame my father for that. The number one thing, I know we recognized a lot of the union people tonight. I'm honored to be endorsed by the AFSCME union. That means a lot to me. I grew up, my father was a UAW guy. He worked for North American Rockwell in Newark. I watched him hurt his back. I watched him lay on the floor at night. I watched him get up every day, work second shift. He would drive an hour to work an 8-hour shift, drive an hour home, come home, lay on the floor. So I learned at a young age that, the working man is where everything in my heart lies. One of the things that I'm running on for county auditor, obviously I can't change policy or anything else, but I don't like that we sort of farm out work. We take jobs away from people that, county jobs are not like they were before where you could get them as a political favor. People use those jobs now for food for their families, for health care for their families. So losing jobs is I'm not about that. I want to be approachable. I think everybody that knows me knows that they can have a conversation with me. I've talked to many townships and villages that have had trouble with relations with the county auditor's office. They can't get called back, they can't get responses, and I want to end that. That was my job for 35 years. Shouldn't say this, but I'm president of a school board in Trimble. That was a glutton for punishment. I have another member sitting out here. She will probably attest to that, Mrs. Arnold. The part about working with the kids, like the OU dams, and working with the young people, and talking to the staff and families. I believe in this county. I love this county. I know we've talked about public service and how much it means to us. Well, it means a lot to me. That's what I want to do again. And I think I have a lot to offer and a lot to give, and I would appreciate your support in November. Thank you.
Come into office and hit the ground running so quickly and be so effective so quickly. Rick Wasserman became treasurer not so long ago and has already made a huge difference for Athens County. He's been on the phone, into the night, talking with delinquent taxpayers, bringing money into our schools, bringing money into our communities, and we really appreciate what you're doing, Rick.
Thank you all so much. I'll be very, very brief. I had lunch with an old friend today, somebody who grew up in Athens, and he said to me, well, what's different about running this time than when you ran all those years ago? I said, well, I expect to win this time. That'd be different. I want to thank everybody in this room and everybody really in the Democratic Party, even who aren't in this room, for the faith that you've showed in me over the last year, the hand up that I've gotten over the years from so many of you. This is a fantastic group of people, and this is our year in a lot of ways. All of you know that I've tried my best to be real aggressive in this job and try to do the best job that I can every single day. I can't wait to get to work in the morning. I work with a lot of really great people, both inside the Treasurer's office and in the rest of the courthouse, and that's made a tremendous difference. People have been so welcoming and so willing to help and so willing to show me the things that I didn't yet know. I've been all over this county, walking door to door and talking to people, and people are immensely supportive. I've eaten a lot of meals up at Kasler's. I've eaten a lot of meals in other parts of the county as well. It's been fantastic to walk around the neighborhoods and talk to people. It's such an incredible feeling when you walk up to a door and they say, get out of here, go to the next door, we're already voting for you. You have to love that. Just for a very brief moment, I'll say a couple of things about my ticket mates. Lenny Eliason, the dean of our elected officials here in the county, he has taught me so much over the years and been such a tremendous help, and being on the ticket with him is truly an honor. And Dave Owen, a guy that I barely knew a year ago, I really like this guy a lot. I mean, he's got a lot of energy, and you could probably never have a chance to vote for somebody for a job as big and complicated as auditor who will have absolutely no learning curve whatsoever when he gets there. And so everybody needs to go out and they need to vote Democrat this fall, and I just can't thank you all enough. Take care.
Organization needs a steady hand, somebody that can guide the ship through good times and bad. In Athens County, we have a steady hand who does that with not a lot of bluster, but has really taken the county forward. And we owe so much to Lenny Eliason for all of his years of service. Thanks, Lenny.
When the judge said she wasn't really a Browns fan, it disappointed me. See, I grew up at Broadway and Harvard, and you're supposed to say that you bleed orange. And down here, you can bleed orange for the Bengals, orange for the Browns. You don't have to say which orange you're bleeding, but you bleed orange or green. I don't want to say a lot, I just want to say thank you. It's been an honor to serve you the past 20 years. I much appreciate being called the dean, because another elected official said, let daddy go fix it. Dean sounds much more appropriate, especially in a college town. But thank you for all you've done for me in the past, and one more time I need it again. I've got an opponent with a different tack. It's different not having a Republican opponent in a fall ticket. When you have an independent, it's a whole new set of circumstances. So I need your help one more time, and please vote from the State House to the courthouse, because that's what we need for everyone to be successful. Thank you.
Good evening, folks. I've got a script. Because, like certain gentlemen in the White House, I go off script. You don't know what I'm going to say. Less than a month ago, the delegates for the Ohio AFL-CIO got together and we voted this gentleman in as our president one more time. He's held that seat since 2011. The Ohio AFL-CIO represents over 500,000 union workers in this state from 40 different affiliated local unions, and a public, private, and federal sectors of employment. Among his numerous boards and commissions, Tim serves as the vice chairman of the We Are Ohio, a nonprofit organization designed to promote issues of social, civic, and economic justice. Tim started in the city of Marion, Ohio, where he went on to become the vice president and president of the Steelworkers Local 7856. Tim then spent 9 years on Capitol Hill, lobbying on workforce training issues for the steelworkers. I first met Tim when he began his work with the Ohio AFL-CIO as a legislative director in 2002. During his tenure as the state federation, Tim has led a coalition in a successful effort to place on the ballot and pass State Issue 2 as a constitutional amendment to raise Ohio's minimum wage. This initiative is hailed as one of the most progressive wage laws in the country, as the minimum wage is linked to the Consumer Price Index. Tim also managed a successful legislative campaign to develop and pass legislation which created the Ohio's Best RX, a prescription drug discount program that is saving uninsured and underinsured Ohioans an average of 38% on prescription drugs. And probably one of the most importantly, as president oversaw, Tim saw the state Fed's statewide campaign to place a referendum on the ballot to overturn Senate Bill 5 and the election to beat and defeat Issue 2 to preserve collective bargaining agreement rights for Ohio public employees. Tim's also led the Federation's political work in 2012, which produced the highest percentage of voter contacts in the country for the cause of re-electing President Obama and U.S. Senator Sherrod Brown. Most recently, Tim directed the Federation's operations in successful local elections across the state in 2013, which highlights include defeating Tea Party initiative in Cincinnati to strip public workers on their defined benefit pension and remove the incumbent mayor for Toledo and replacing him with a pro-labor mayor. Tim represents organized labor in the state of Ohio Global Markets Advisory Team, Industrial Commission Nominating Council, Industrial Commission Rules Committee, Bureau of Workers' Compensation Nominating Council, the AFL-CIO Federation Advisory Council, and the AFL-CIO Appellation Council. Tim holds a bachelor's degree from Ohio Wesleyan University, where he graduated cum laude from the Arneson Institute of Applied Politics, and was the recipient of James J. Heron Award for Public Service. Tim currently resides in Westerville with his wife Marinette and his son Roberto, who is now living in Athens, Ohio as a brand new freshman Bobcat this year. He's already shown some good judgment. Truly honored and privileged to introduce you to someone I'm proud to call my good friend.
Thank you very much. Let's hear it for Ted Linscott. John, I hope it's okay if I take my jacket off. Good evening, everybody. Thank you so much, Ted, for the kind introduction. Ted and I do battle on behalf of working people and trade unionists here in the state. And I made sure that we had voice and representation on the Ohio AFL-CIO Executive Board from this part of the state. And Ted's been serving on the Ohio AFL-CIO Executive Board as a vice president now for how many years, Ted?
12.
12 years. And I can assure you that there's not a board meeting that goes by, and Ted's at every one of them, that Ted's not bringing the issues and concerns and hopes and aspirations of this region. And I appreciate you so much, Ted, for your loyalty to your union, your loyalty to the region here, and your engagement at the State Federation. And we should also hear it for our chairman, John Hazley. John and I have been friends for a long, long time. John has had a lot of success in his life. And I'm so happy because success comes to good people, people who work hard. Not only is John an Athens County treasurer, but he's an incredible state resource. And John, you've been a great friend, you're a great chairman, and I'm going to be there in the trenches with you anytime you need it. So thank you. And I'd like to offer up, if you need it, a $1,000 contribution for your GOTV efforts for the final 27 days. I've been traveling the state. It's what I do. There's a lot of energy and enthusiasm going on right now. Just have to direct it in the right way, and we have to mobilize and we have to activate. Let me first say, as a third-generation steelworker and a grandson of a coal miner, my parents are both from Belmont County, I'm so happy that we're seeing workers that maybe don't even know what the National Labor Relations Act is, the Wagner Act, may not even know what the Public Employee Collective Bargaining Law is here in the state of Ohio, may not know how the Fair Labor Standards Act came about, or OSHA, or all these other policies that gave working people an opportunity to get ahead in life. And we're seeing working people come together. They might not even know they're unionizing, but it's happening all over the country. We saw it in red states, in West Virginia and Oklahoma, that don't have collective bargaining rights, where teachers were coming together to say, no longer are we going to teach your kids and be on public assistance. It's not moral, it's not right. In the most dire of times that we're in right now for working people to get ahead, we're seeing people want to come together for collective voice at the workplace to have better bargaining power for themselves and their families. Just last year, 262,000 workers were added to the union rolls across the country in this environment. Sector, yep. 1 out of every 2 people that's working in the private sector that does not belong to a union would join a union tomorrow if they had an opportunity. So, the table is set right now. The Wagner Act, National Labor Relations Act, the Fair Labor Standards Act, all these great policies gave legitimacy to the modern labor movement and opportunity for working people to get ahead. But it was the activism and the mobilization and the workplace strikes and the showing of unity coming together to say no more that created the National Labor Relations Act and the Fair Labor Standards Act and all the other policies during the New Deal era and subsequently leading up post-World War II. It was the engagement of working people who said, we've had enough, that created those policies. So we find ourselves at the crossroads of history this year. In my opinion, this election is a defining election for a generation of what type of state what type of nation we are to become, and what place in it working people and organized labor have. Typically, midterm elections, especially just soon after somebody new takes the White House, they typically become a referendum on the party in power or the party in the White House. And I suspect there'll be a good deal of that this year. What we've been focused on in the House of Labor, and we have 700,000 union members in the state of Ohio, roughly half in the private sector, half in the public sector. And when you add in our household family members and our Working America community affiliate, we've got about 1.7 million voters in the state that are on our voter file that we can do express advocacy with. And our program is built on not litigating the 2016 elections. And there's plenty to do, trust me. I mean, there's plenty to do there. And I think a fair amount of this election will be a referendum on Donald Trump. And quite frankly, should be, as he has built his presidency, two fronts of the foundation of his presidency. One front is catering to big business, Wall Street, and the super wealthy. And the other front is playing to bigots and bullies. Donald Trump came into office with a lot of promises about creating jobs and doing a lot of things that some people fell for. So what did he do right out of the gate? Playing to Wall Street, the super wealthy. First thing he wants to do is get rid of the Affordable Care Act and kick people with pre-existing conditions off of health care. That's the first thing he does. Then he wants to pass a $1.5 trillion tax bill to give his corporate buddies a break. You know, the $1.5 trillion tax bill that did pass, 80% of that $1.5 trillion goes to the top 1% wealthiest Americans. What else did he do? He put another corporate lackey on the Supreme Court, and we then saw right to work happen with our public sector employees with the Janus decision. So he's playing to his corporate elite, Wall Street, the super wealthy, and on the other hand, he's been playing to bigots and bullies. We've seen a daily exercise of a serial misogynist that is both very frustrating and difficult and upsetting to watch. And we're also seeing someone who hasn't found a despot or a dictator that he doesn't like, right? At the expense of our most valued international allies. He disrespects our NATO European alliances. He goes after Canada when we try to find an issue where we may have some common ground in international trade. So what does he do when we sit down with him? He starts talking about going after Canada, one of the last remaining countries we actually have an import-export surplus with. A country that has a more expansive middle class than we do at this point, who values trade unionism and social programs. So we said with this president we would call hits and misses, balls and strikes, and I've not been shy, and John knows this. My sisters and brothers in organized labor who are here tonight know that I've been calling out these balls and strikes and have not been shy about it. But for our 1.7 million members that we're trying to get this election right, they know all this stuff that I just said. You can't turn on the radio or the television without getting a daily dose of something foolish or illegal that this president has done. You know what quality of candidates we have. Judge Stewart, Rick Neal, and the other local candidates you heard from are an example of what great candidates that we have this year and the clear choices that we have when you look at all of the issues that matter most to working people in this state. We have, starting at the very top of the ticket, with Sherrod Brown. Sherrod Brown is the gold standard for a public servant who spends his time in office making sure he's doing the bidding for everybody in this room and all of us and trying to build the economy from the middle class out. And Sherrod Brown is our North Star and somebody that we're going to follow and we're going to talk about at the doors and on the phones and at the workplaces and our local union mail and our digital work and our paid TV, the differences between Sherrod Brown and on the weekend and he's home visiting a nursing home, or he's at a union hall, or he's in a healthcare clinic. Sherrod Brown has walked the walk and talked the talk, and he's backed it up for so long, and we've got to have his back now, and I know that you believe that too. So these last 2 years have been extremely, extremely difficult. If you believe in decency and the rule of law, and believing that we're better than this as a country, that we're better when we pick each other up and when we stand together than when we govern based on divisiveness, hate, and fear. It's been very difficult, and we've got that. Not only do we have that, we've got 8 years of the most extreme Republican rule in this state that we've seen in my lifetime. Looking at the last 8 years gives us plenty of opportunity to talk to our members about the historic chance that we have right now of getting this election right. When you look at Rich Cordray and Betty Sutton, and you compare and contrast their record with Mike DeWine and John Husted, it's so lopsided that it's unbelievable. And we're making that case every day to our members in every way possible that we can. When you look at the all-out assault that organized labor in particular has seen in these last 8 years. It started with Senate Bill 5, and because the good people of Athens County in this region came together and said an attack on one worker is an attack on all workers, and in fact, it's organized labor that sets the bar for working people, and we've got your back. When we showed that sort of unity, and we held strong, and we overturned Senate Bill 5 with State Issue 2 referendum by a larger vote amount than what Kasich got to become governor. Now, John Kasich was on Anderson Cooper this week, and to his credit, was very humble and said that organized labor handed him his lunch on Senate Bill 5, and he learned from that. And he was trying to make the point that the Republicans who are high-fiving in the locker room over Justice Kavanaugh's confirmation ought to try to reach out to the other side. And to Governor Kasich's credit, he did learn something from Senate Bill 5. And a lesson was learned also that sometimes when we don't look for fights, but when they punch you in the nose, you got to punch them back twice as hard. And that's what we did with your help. Now, it's not just been that, but because of that, we have kept some of the most existential stuff from moving forward, but they're out there. They're waiting for lame duck, and they're waiting to see if Mike DeWine's governor. It's taking away prevailing wage in the building construction trades, project labor agreements. You saw what they were trying to do to our unemployment compensation for those no fault of their own who might get laid off or displaced from work. They're wanting to cut eligibility and cut benefits. They want to cut our workers' compensation benefits. They want to come after our local government funds. They've been doing that for the last 8 years. The list goes on and on and on and on that have made it more difficult for everyday Ohioans to get by. So we have an opportunity with Rich Cordray and Betty Sutton. They have laid out the most concrete set of plans that I've ever seen candidates lay out in running for such high office. Day one, Rich Cordray and Betty Sutton will work on a massive infrastructure bill to put on the ballot for bonding. We'll create thousands and thousands of construction jobs and have a ripple effect throughout the economy. Rich Cordray and Betty Sutton will stand up. Day one of their administration, all the attacks on organized labor and working people will be done. Now, we may have to go to ballot to protect some things that maybe may move there, but we'll have the help of the governor and lieutenant governor, and hopefully the candidates who are here with us tonight and the others on the statewide ticket that we've endorsed. So we have a huge opportunity in 27 days. In fact, as everybody has said, voting has started now. We have got to make sure that we are doing everything possible, because when we win the governor's office, and when we retain Sherrod Brown, and when we win the statewide offices, and when we make gains or take back the General Assembly, then we have an opportunity to grow the labor movement. We have an opportunity to advance policies that allow all Ohioans the opportunity to contribute to and share in the great resources and rewards the state have to offer. And for far too long now, it's been left for only those at the very top in special interest. And we know that. Taylor said it right. There's no magical blue wave that's going to come. The wave comes when I look out here. This is the wave. The wave starts here in Athens County, and it makes its way down the river to the Queen City, up through the factories and fields in the state of Ohio, all along the North Shore, and that wave carries over into the Youngstown, down the Mahoning Valley, through the Upper Ohio Valley, and back to the capital city, Rick. That's how you create a wave. Are you going to help us create that wave this year? And I've been talking so much this year, and I'm at the point now where I'm going around telling our people the time for talk is over. The case has been made. It's time to get to work. And that's exactly what we're doing. And we don't do it for the sport of winning election. We do it for the public policy that rises out of it. When we win this election, we can say we're no longer going to judge our victories by how we minimize our defeats. We're going to talk about our victories because we have an opportunity, and we will be seated at the center seat of the table in state government. We will be ones in there that are writing the rules for the economy moving forward. We will be the ones that have our hands and our voices in every aspect of the economic discussions and workplace decisions that are happening in the state of Ohio. Ladies and gentlemen, sisters and brothers, that's why we in organized labor get involved in politics. And imagine a state where we can say that we're going to lift everybody up by coming together. We're going to lift people up and value the dignity of work again. We're going to end the culture of one-party corruption in the State House that sees public for-profit charter schools rip off the taxpayers simply so cash contributions can go back to those CEOs and the candidates that they want to enrich. We're going to end that, sisters and brothers. We're going to return the local government funds back to places like Athens County so we can get our public safety and needed services moving again without having to have a local levy every time you turn around. That's what I imagine, and I know that that's what you can imagine too, a new generation of opportunity. We're greatest when we lift each other up. So this is a tremendous opportunity for us to put the marker down right here in Athens County, right here in the state of Ohio, to say we're better than what we've been getting the last 2 years in federal government. We're better than what we've been getting the last 8 years in state government. And when we win in the state of Ohio, and when we pick up congressional seats, it's going to be determinant.
breathing the air on this beautiful day. What's wrong with you?